on and laugh. I bet you 4 bits you're thinking about home, too. Everybody thinks about home from the time he's inducted until he gets out of the Army. But you know, the funny thing is that when you think about home, you think about nothing but the good things. Oh, don't get me wrong. It wasn't bad. It's just that you sort of build up the good part and forget about the rest. You see yourself eating good food. Going to baseball games. Drinking beer with the gang. Sleeping till noon. From this far away, there are a lot of things you forget about. I mean, things that gave you a lot of trouble back in civilian life. Like the time you couldn't get that job because you didn't graduate from high school. Or that fight you had with your wife when they made Joe head of the department and she wanted to know why you didn't get it. You couldn't tell her you didn't know enough to get the job. Or that time your kid asked you what was the capital of North Dakota. You didn't get mad because he asked you. You got mad because you didn't know. That time you got fired. Maybe the boss wasn't all wrong. Maybe you just couldn't handle the job. Well, I figure we ought to be thinking about those things, too. Because we're all going to get back home sometime or other. Now, you take me, for instance. I quit school when I was in 6th grade. Sure, I could have kicked myself afterwards. I knew what a dope I'd been. But by that time, I was too busy making a living. So what? So I'm a dope for the rest of my life. Well, the Army's been thinking about this thing, too. And this is what they got figured out. They say we've got a lot of guys like Donovan. That's me. Guys who never learned as much as they should have. Well, right now, Donovan's sitting around on his behind. Now, instead of wasting that time, why not give him a chance to train for something he wants to do later? Now, you know, that makes pretty good sense. And they tell me that the brass hats in this theater are pretty strong for the idea.
The men in this theater have done a great job. We know there's still a war to be won. But some of the surplus men in this theater are going to be sent home. Those men will have time on their hands before shipping space is found for them. You don't want to give them useless work and drill just to fill that time. You want to use that time to give them training that'll be of real value to them when they return to civilian life. I'm talking about an Army education program, a training program for civilian life. This program will be voluntary for the men eligible to participate. Those who choose to take part in it will be excused from certain of their military duties. They'll be given a choice of general educational subjects, vocational training, and practical on-the-job training. There'll also be organized athletics, amateur dramatics, music, and so forth. Now, as I see it, this program has 3 objectives. First, to help these men equip themselves to get and hold jobs. Second, to qualify them as thinking citizens so they'll be able to help maintain the democracy they've been fighting for. And third, to give each man an opportunity for a broader general education.
Well, that's what the whole thing's about. Of course, you know how generals are. They know what they're trying to say, but lots of times they don't know how to say it right. Like he calls it Army Education Program. Well, I call it a good chance to get wise to some of the things I missed out on. Now, he was talking about jobs, for instance. Well, sure, everybody wants a job. But if a guy can learn more about his old job or learn how to get a better one, he's that much ahead. Then you take this stuff about citizenship and democracy. Well, suppose you and me and everybody else was in business together. You want to learn all there is to know about the business, wouldn't you? Well, here's a chance to learn how to help run your country. Then he talked about general education. Well, he was talking to guys like me. All he meant was that here's a chance for us to catch up with the guys who went to high school. Now, I think that makes pretty good sense when you add it up that way. Of course, it took me a long time to add it up. First, I had to find out what the deal was. They sent a few of us from our company to a school to find out what this thing was all about. They sent the company commander and 2 lieutenants and 4 of us non-coms. Well, the whole thing sounded kind of silly to me. I couldn't see the idea of sending grown-up soldiers back to school. And this day I ran into my company commander on the way out. He's a real officer, this captain of ours, and a regular guy. They don't hand out those DSCs for playing ping pong.
Well, what do you think of this program, Sergeant?
Oh, it looks like going back to school to me, sir. Sitting in a classroom and reciting, that's for kids.
Well, there's some things that can be taught better in a classroom.
I guess, sir.
But that's not all of it. There's going to be a lot of on-the-job training, too. A man who's learning electricity can get some practical experience wiring some of these houses around here. Same thing with farming and auto mechanics. He'll get a chance to try his hand at the job.
Oh, that's not so bad.
You're not going to be sent back to the Little Red Schoolhouse, if that's what's worrying you.
Well, I went over the hill when I was in 6th grade because of arithmetic.
What are you going to do after you get out of the Army, Sergeant?
Oh, go back to my old job. I got a letter from my boss the other day.
What was your old job?
I was shop foreman in a garage.
Are you a pretty good mechanic?
Yes, sir, I am.
How would you like to teach a course in auto mechanics?
Me? Oh, no, I couldn't teach anything, no, sir.
I think you're a hell of a good teacher. You trained your platoon, didn't you?
Oh, yes, sir, me and the lieutenant.
You taught them how to use their weapons, and you taught them minor tactics.
Oh, yes, sir, but that was different.
Yeah, objective was different, but it was education just the same. As a matter of fact, the training of this Army was the biggest educational job ever attempted.
Yes, sir, I guess you're right.
If you and I can teach men how to kill each other, we can teach them how to live with each other.
Yes, sir.
I've been appointed unit education officer, Fire Regiment. I'm looking for instructors. We're going to pick the best qualified men, officers or enlisted men. How about it? You want to teach that course?
Well, I don't know.
Okay, you're an instructor.
That's a laugh. Me being an instructor. The funny part is that he wasn't kidding. I'm going to be an instructor. The thing that threw me at first was this school idea. But you got to forget about that, see? Because it's just a chance to learn something you want to learn, that's all. Now, here's the way the thing works. They're going to set up a training school right here in this outfit. And every man who wants to can train for something. What you study is pretty much up to you. You'll each get an interview with your platoon leader or your company commander. He'll try to help you figure out what the best courses are for you to take. That's what they sent him to that school for. If he can't give you the help you want, he'll send you to the regimental education officer. Oh, by the way, taking these courses won't interfere with your going home when the time comes. You don't have to stay on just to finish a course. When your turn comes to go, you go. Now, here's a list of the courses. You can look them over and take your pick of the ones that are going to be given in this outfit. Now, here's one on dairy farming, one on plumbing, English composition, building construction, American history. I'm taking that one myself. You know, it's funny, some of the things guys want to study. Some things you'd never even think of. But each guy's got a reason. Now, you take some of the guys in my platoon, for instance. Here's Joe Flavin. Back in civilian life, he used to be a radio repairman. What are you going to study, Joe?
I'm going to take bookkeeping and some commercial law.
What do you want to do that for?
Well, I want to open up a radio shop of my own when I get home, and I figure I'll need those things. They've even got a course on how to run a radio shop.
Looks like you're going to be pretty busy.
Well, if the Army can dish out that kind of stuff, I guess I can take it.
Now, here's Smitty. He looks better with the soap off his face, but what the hell? Hey, Smitty, what are you going to do when you get back home?
Get drunk.
I mean about a job. What'd you do before?
Well, I used to work in a paper box factory. Only I didn't like it.
Well, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do, see? But the captain gave me a good steer. He finds out I like to make maps and stuff like that. So he says, what about blueprint reading and drafting? Well, that's right up my alley. Only I didn't know it, see?
Weren't you the guy who was afraid of getting educated?
Hell, this ain't education. It's learning how to get a decent job.
Here's another guy, Bill Patterson. He's really smart, went to college and everything. What about you, Bill?
Well, I want to be a civil engineer. I didn't finish my last year of college.
What about those technical schools they're going to set up?
Well, that's what I put in for. They're going to send some of us to university study centers, too. You'll be able to go on with your college courses and get a certificate for the work you do.
Hey, tell me something, Bill. What makes a guy want to be an engineer?
You tell me something. What makes a guy want to be a sergeant?
Okay, skip it. This is Hank Larson, the damn good BAR man. Saved my hide a couple of times. Hey, Hank, what you used to do back home?
Me? I was a riveter.
What are you going to study while you're in the Army?
Oh, American history, arithmetic, English grammar, stuff like that.
What do you want that stuff for, Hank?
Well, because my wife is a very smart woman. She used to say to me, Hank, you ought to study. If you don't get yourself an education, you're going to be a riveter all your life. She was after me all the time to go to night school, but I was too tired. Now I can go to night school in the daytime.
You see what I mean? There's all kinds of guys in this Army, and they've got courses for everybody. And if you can't find something you want to study, it's because you're the smartest guy in the world or the biggest dope. You know what sold our outfit in this program? Some things the captain said when he was leaving the company. We were throwing a beer party for him down in the village just before he left.
The captain has a few words he'd like to say to us. Well, men, my new job as regimental education officer means that I won't be with B Company anymore. But I'll still be in the regiment, so keep those salutes snappy and watch the company area. I told you once back at Camp Shelby that I thought B Company could someday be the finest damn bunch of soldiers in the whole Army. Well, I was right. Because when the chips were down, that's just what you turned out to be. We're all going home someday, and when we do, we're going to have a new fight on our hands. The fight to get a good job and hold it, so we can all live the way we want to live. We need training for that kind of fight, too. Only this time, it's not going to be just a battle for a bridge or a hill. It's going to be the battle for the rest of your life. Some of us didn't get very good training for that kind of fight. Well, the Army is going to give us a chance to catch up, to get that training now. You remember back at Camp Shelby, I wanted every man in the company to qualify when we fired the weapons. Well, I want every man to qualify this time, too. I want you to qualify in your peacetime weapons, so that when the time comes, you can get a job in the first place and do a good job after you've got it. I hope you'll all get onto this thing the Army's offering you now. Get on it and ride it for all it's worth, because it's going to be worth plenty. Goodbye, and good luck. It's been a privilege to serve with you. Sergeant? Well, have you changed your mind about this program?
Yes, sir, I have. But there's just one thing.
What's that?
Well, they're not going to ring in any long-haired professors on us, are they?
No, I think most of our professors are going to be the short-haired kind.
Professors just scare the hell out of me, Captain.
You know, they used to scare hell out of me, too.
How'd you get over it?
Well, I guess I got over it when I became a professor myself.
You? You mean you're a professor?
Yes. I used to teach Greek archaeology at Ohio State.
Greek. See what I mean? Ain't this the damnedest Army you ever saw in your life?